Welcome to Fighting Stats, the ultimate channel for UFC fans who love statistics and betting breakdowns. I'm your host, Art C, and today I'll be getting you ready for the upcoming UFC fight. Here at FightingStats.com, we have exclusive UFC stats not available anywhere else. We can tell you how often a fighter throws that left hook or that right jab in southpaw, how often they move backwards, or how often they throw kicks. We have all of that information, but that is not all. In this series, I'll be watching tape and I'll give you my real-time analysis on how the fight's going to go. I'm going to watch for fighter strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and overall strategies to give you my prediction on how I think the fight is going to go and ultimately who's going to win. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Fighting Stats. Welcome back to Fighting Stats. I'm your host, Art C, and today we are breaking down the UFC 306 main card fight between Daniel Zellhuber and Estoban Ribovics. This one's going to be a fun fight. We have watched some of the fight tape there, so we're ready to give you my prediction on how the fight's going to go. First, we're going to get into our Fighting Stats dashboard here. I'll get you all the fights, what the numbers say, and then we'll break down the fight. So first, we're starting here, blue side. Here we have Daniel Zellhuber on the blue side, Estoban Ribovics on the red side. First thing we want to note is Daniel Zellhuber going to have a 7-inch reach advantage, 3-inch height advantage, so big physical specimen there for Daniel Zellhuber. He's 3-1 in the UFC, 33% of his wins coming from submission, 67% coming from decision. Does have one loss by decision, and that's on the Ribovic side. He's 2-1 in the UFC, one of his wins from KO, one by decision. He also has one loss by decision. All right, so starting right away, let's go to Daniel Zellhuber, offensive striker. He's going to be mainly a distance striker, obviously with the height and reach advantage. He likes to stay on the outside, so 88% of his strikes going to be landed at a distance, 4% in the clinch, and 8% on the ground. In terms of his target breakdown, he does go to the head at 80% of the time, goes to the body at 15% of the time, and only leg kicks about 4% of the time, so not a huge leg kicker. In terms of striking accuracy here, he goes to the head at 31% head strike accuracy, 55% body strike accuracy, and 94% leg strike accuracy. And then we look at the strikes thrown by round here. On average, he averages 59 strikes thrown in round 1, 70 strikes in round 2, and 80 strikes in round 3, so it does go up as the rounds go on. Lands about 23, 30, and 25 strikes in rounds 1, 2, and 3 there. And then you can see the head targets about the same, 15, 20, and 18 head strikes landed by rounds 1, 2, and 3. All right, so we went through the fight tape here. Daniel Zellhuber looking like he's on a little bit of a run. That Trey Ogden fight was the first time he did lose, and that one I attribute more to just, I don't know what it was, like octagon jitters or whatnot, but he let Trey Ogden just get off too much volume. Ogden ended up winning a decision just because Zellhuber was too gun shy, I guess, not throwing a ton of volume there. He was probably the better technical striker, but again, Ogden just ended up winning that fight by decision. Then he fights Lando Venata, Christian Giagos, and Francisco Prado. All three of those guys pretty decent strikers, but again, he does have a huge reach advantage there. He did drop Lando Venata in the first round there. Lando Venata coming back in the second round, and that third round being very close there. I thought that fight was pretty close. Against Christian Giagos, that fight, again, I think Giagos won that first round. He rocked Daniel Zellhuber, didn't go down, did not technically count it as a knockdown, but he did win that first round and then came back in the second round, winning by a choke there, and then Prado was a one-sided match there. So overall, he does have that one knockdown against Lando Venata. Again, we talked about the leg strikes, not a big leg kicker from his frame, more of a technical Mexican boxer, very tight boxing, and we'll talk about his ground game in a bit. Let's move over to the defensive striking there. We can see 98% of the strikes landed against or from a distance and only 2% on the ground there. In terms of target breakdown, 63% of the shots absorbed are to the head, 16 towards the body, and 22% leg kick damage there. So he does absorb a lot of leg kicks. He has that long, lanky stand there. Leg's going to be a little bit easier to get to because of the long range there. In terms of defensive striking, pretty good 26% head strike defense, which is good, 53% body strike defense, and 82% leg strike defense. In terms of strikes absorbed by round, on average, looks like he averages 23, 23, and 22. So Each round, he's going to be absorbing about 23 strikes there, and then you can see a lot of those strikes going to be from leg kicks, on average eating about 12, 10, and 6 leg kicks. Just talking about the leg kicks there, just wanted to highlight some of the things there. So again, because Zellhuber has that long, lankier stance, he's wide base, just it's going to be, and he likes to keep that distance, stand way outside where only he can reach you. A lot of the times, the only alternative for the fighters that he's fighting against have to go for the leg kicks, right? So you see Trey Ogden going 18 for 20 in round one, 16 of 18 in leg kicks in round two, and 8 of 8 in round three. Lando Venata, even same thing, goes 10 for 13 in round one, 8 of 11 in round two. Even in his last fight, Francisco Prado going 12 of 16 in round one, 13 of 15 in round two, and 9 of 13 in round three. So definitely something to keep an eye on is those leg kicks. Again, he does eat a ton of them. I haven't seen it really affect him much where he's limping on them or having to switch stance. Mainly seen him strike from orthodox, so keep an eye on that outside low kick there. Moving over to the Esteban Ribovics side, offensive striking. Also a distance striker, 84% of his strikes going to be landed at a distance, 6% in the clinch, and 9% on the ground. In terms of his target breakdown, mostly a headhunter, 87% of his strikes landed towards the head, 10% towards the body, and not a big leg kicker, 3% to the legs there. So worth noting there, right? In terms of striking accuracy, look at this: 50% head strike accuracy, very good. 85% body strike accuracy, and only 80% leg kick accuracy. And then same sort of thing with Zellhuber. His strikes do go up as the rounds go on, but he does throw a crazy pace here. He lands about 15 strikes in round one, and then significantly goes up to 45 strikes in rounds two, and drops off to 38 strikes in round three. There, he averages 83 strikes thrown in rounds two and 66 strikes thrown in round three. So he's one of those pace setters guys where he can come forward, push a real pace there, and then take over in the later rounds. We'll get into that just in a bit in terms of the breakdown. Let's go over to the Ribovics defensive striking. We'll talk about that there. 90% of his strikes landed going to be at a distance. 8% of the strikes landed against going to be in the clinch, and 2% on the ground. Against his target breakdown, 85% of the strikes landed towards the head, 11 towards the body, and 4% towards the legs. And then again, defensive striking accuracy, 40% head strike defense, which isn't great, 87% body strike defense, and 100% leg kick defense. Has not been able to miss a leg kick. In terms of strikes absorbed by round, on average absorbs 5 strikes in round 1, strike pops up to 24 strikes in round 2, and 19 strikes in round 3. Has not been knocked down in his UFC career. He has been rocked, but not technically a knockdown there. Now let's go over to the grappling report. I think that the fight will probably stay standing. If anybody tries to attempt a takedown, it might be Zellhuber, but let's see what the numbers say here. See, on average, yeah, Zellhuber averaging zero takedowns in round one, 0 takedowns in round two, and only zero point 0.3 takedowns in round three. Really only attempted 1 takedown against Lando Venata in that fight. So probably the fight will stay standing on the Zellhuber side, but you never know. He is a BJJ black belt. We haven't seen much of it other than the Christos Giagos fight. He locked in as choke pretty fast, but otherwise he's going to want to keep distance there. In terms of defensive grappling, here's one of the things that we really stood out on the tape for Zellhuber is his takedown defense. Brendan Moreno was actually commenting one of his fights, commenting that he did have great defense, and it did show up on tape there. So he's seen 18 takedown attempts against. Only one of them have been successful. That was Trey Ogden, and only allowed 38 seconds of control time from that one takedown. So again, very elite takedown defense there, but I don't think it's going to be a big problem here. Same thing with Ribovics' offensive grappling. He just doesn't shoot a ton of takedowns. On average, he's attempted 3 takedown attempts. 2 of them have been successful, both of them against Kamala Kirk there in the second and third round. More about the Kamala Kirk slowing down a bit than anything, but again, he will mix in the takedowns, but I just don't think he actively goes for them. So again, both fighters probably don't look for them. Defensive grappling here for Ribovics. He's seen 35 takedown attempts. 14 of them have been successful. A lot of them coming against Loik Radzavov. He landed about 11 takedowns in that fight there, and then since then, Kamala Kirk landed 3 takedowns in that fight there. So overall, good takedown defense. Overall poor takedown defense from Estoban Ribovics, but he does do a good job of getting back up to his feet. He loves that Kimura from the bottom. He uses to sweep to get back up. So we'll talk about that in a bit in terms of the breakdown. Let me just touch briefly on the time breakdown here. Again, we said 79% Daniel Zellhuber going to be a distance striker, so 79% of the time he spent standing, 10% of the time he spent in the clinch there, and then a small chunk of the time there on the ground. When he is on top, 56% of the time he was in north-south. Not much to talk about there. So, time breakdown on the Zellhuber side, or the Ribovics side, 55% of the fight was spent standing, 36% of his fight time was spent on the ground there. So, interesting to note. But again, I don't think it's going to hit the ground too much, so we'll briefly go over that. This is what I really wanted to go over was the fighting stats, striking tendencies. Again, only fighting stats has these numbers here. So Daniel Zellhuber going to be a big single strike thrower there. So 85%, 84% of the strikes thrown by Daniel Zellhuber going to be single strikes, and 29% of those, 29% of his overall strikes going to involve some sort of kick there. So for Zellhuber, his favorite strike is the jab. He goes to it 31% of the time. Then he goes for that lead hook 13% of the time, and he goes for that straight two down the middle at 12%. Rear high kick and rear low kick about 12% and 6%. Lead high kick about 5%. So pretty again, it's pretty basic. Not I want to say basic, but tight boxing. 1, 2, 3s down the middle, right, rear low kicks, rear high kicks, lead high kicks, and then 1, 2s double jabs. So nothing too crazy in terms of his striking there. On the Ribovic side, he's more of a brawler, I would say. 62% single strike rate, only 14% kicks. Again, he likes to go to the jab at 21%. 15% is that straight two, and 3% is that left hook there. Doesn't throw a lot of kicks, so 5% is the 1-2, and then I think 4% is the rear low kick there. So that's a big difference here. Zellhuber's going to throw a lot of single strikes, a lot of kicks, and then Ribovic's going to throw a lot of combos, things like that. So let's go over to my prediction here. Let's again, we watch the tape here. Okay, so both fighters going to open up orthodox again. Zellhuber's going to have a big reach advantage, big height advantage. So he's going to one of the best things that he does is his distance management. He does a really good job of keeping distance here. As his opponent moves forward, he's moving backwards. As his opponent moves backwards, he's moving forward. He's always wanted keeping that striking range where he can touch his opponent, but his opponent cannot touch him. Again, he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage in here. So a lot of the times, again, it forces the opponent to go outside low kick, go to the legs early, because that's a really only thing. So you're standing at a striking range, you can touch him, but his opponent cannot, so he has to resort to leg kicks. The problem is Ribovics doesn't really throw any leg kicks. We talked about his target breakdown and stuff like that, so you can see here, leg target only 4% towards the legs there for Ribovics. Sorry, on offense here, 3% leg target there at 80% accuracy. So he's not going to throw a ton of leg kicks. I think Zellhuber's seen enough leg kicks that it's not going to really bother him. So again, Zellhuber's going to stay on the outside. He's going to circle around. He's probably going to be on his bike a lot. Ribovics is probably going to be the one coming forward in this fight. I haven't really seen Ribovics sort of take a step backwards. He's one of those guys that really push a pace and looking to brawl. So Ribovics does have a tall task in front of him. He does have to try to close that distance, but we did see that. I went back and I watched that Ribovics versus Jagago's fight. I think Kamala Kirk having like a 6-inch reach advantage, 7-inch reach advantage, and Estoban Ribovics coming on the inside, throwing a lot of big bombs there, landing that left hook. I think again he rocked Kamala Kirk there in that second round, and Kamala Kirk's a pretty big guy as well, so he does have experience in closing the distance. Earlier in the fight tape I watched for Ribovics, he did like to sit down on a lot of his strikes, throw a lot of power, and stay sort of stationary. At first I thought it might be a problem for him against somebody like Zellhuber, who are looking to more stick and move, pop his jab, things like that. But what I found in the Canelo Kirk one, he did take over. That forward pressure really got to him. He was able to sort of close the distance, push him against the fence. It's really going to depend on Zellhuber's footwork, if he can do a lot of lateral movement, staying off the fence, being able to circle, because again, it's Ribovics going to be the one coming forward. He's going to want to engage in a firefight. If he does get into a firefight, I do sort of favor Ribovics. I think he throws with a little bit more power. I think he has a little bit better chin. He's taken some big shots. Zellhuber, both of them actually have been rocked, not really fallen down, but they have been rocked. I sort of favor Ribovics for some reason to have a better chin. And again, I think the later it goes, the more it favors Ribovics in this fight as well. Briefly touching on the grappling, again, I don't think either guy really shoots in for a takedown. It could be, the first person to think that they're losing the stand up or if they're getting picked apart will go for the takedown. Or it's probably more of a clinch situation up against the fence. Maybe some guy goes for outside trip, inside trip there, and gets down to the ground. If it does hit the ground there, I think it's sort of a stalemate. We have seen Ribovics off of his back. He doesn't like to use the Kimura. The Kimura is his favorite submission. He goes to that quite often, but he does say he uses it more of as a sweep, more of a control. So you'll see him on the ground on bottom, reaching up for the Kimura, trying to get it up. But again, he will reverse you with the Kimura and try to stand back up. If he doesn't get it, that's fine. He's more of using it as a defensive weapon. So again, Zellhuber, if it does hit the ground, he does like a front choke. He has those long arms, really good for Dar's chokes, anaconda chokes, things like that. So I can definitely see a choke coming from there. But again, I just don't think either guy proactively grapples with the other fights there, we saw more one person more engaging in the grappling. I think if it stays standing, I think they want to keep the fight standing. So again, I don't think it goes to the submission or to the ground quite often. So in the 3-round fight, again, keep in mind this is at the UFC Sphere and Mexican Independence Day. It's going to be full of Mexicans. Zellhuber is going to be one of those young Mexican prospects, so he's going to definitely have the crowd on his side. But Ribovics is such a dog, and he likes to come forward. And he likes to throw with power. I can see Ribovics keeping it or making it a really dirty fight. I think Zellhuber is going to have to fight sort of a perfect game plan where, again, he sticks and moves. I kind of favor the fight to go to decision because of that. Again, Zellhuber is going to be a lot of single strikes. He's going to want to circle off. He's going to want to maintain that distance, and Ribovics is going to have to close that distance. Ribovics can take a shot. He can eat a punch. So I don't really see definitely Zellhuber KO is possible, but I just think over the 3 rounds, I think he is able to eat that punishment. If anything, I could see a Ribovics late finish as well because just of the forward pressure. If Zellhuber does have to move back a little bit and keep on moving back, does he have the cardio to do that for 3 rounds? And Ribovics can just push a pace and an output there. So if it does come down to the judges' scorecard, I am worried about the home crowd judging, the crowd going nuts every time Zellhuber lands a jab. But Ribovics is just in your face so often. He can make it such a dirty fight that I think that the odds are a little bit wide. And I think I'm going to land on the Ribovic side. I think it's going to be dog or pass for me in this situation. The odds are a little bit too wide, and Zellhuber's had a couple of close fights there, right? So the last couple of fights there, he fought against Lando Venado. I thought that was pretty close. He won that first round being a 10-8. Against Jagagos, he lost that first round there. So I can definitely see a case for having Ribovics win a very close split decision, something like that, where I think it's just going to be the damage. It's going to be the big moments for Ribovics, and I think in his all of his UFC fights, Ribovics has never been outstruck. So I do think that he probably lands more strikes in this fight as well. So Huber's going to be probably the more technical, tighter boxer. A lot of 1-2s, right? We talked about the strikes down the middle, and I think just sorry. Ribovics is going to have to create chaos there and just have more bigger moments. He's going to throw shots to the body, longer frame there. The body shots are open. So I can see it going back and forth at the current price of minus 250, I think, for Zellhuber. I do have to lane with the dog here. Let me check on the current odds. I haven't looked at them currently. Zellhuber going to make minus 250 the comeback on Ribovics plus 210 there. I like the Ribovics. Looks like money's coming in on the Zellhuber side, so I may end up waiting and taking the Ribovics side last minute. So let me know in the comments below what you think, how the fight's going to go. But give me Estoban Ribovics by decision. That's my official prediction. But I will maybe take a look at late round props. I'll take a look at the submission line depending on what they are. But I just don't think it's going to be too often. If Ribovics gets the submission, it's probably going to be from Komuro, but I think Zellhuber going to be too wise to be able to defend. And if Zellhuber gets the submission, it's probably going to be by choke. We have seen Ribovics in a rear naked choke try to fight that off. He was able to survive, but wouldn't surprise me. Again, Zellhuber has those long arms. So give me Estoban Ribovics to win by decision for the upset. My name is Artsy, and this is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching. All right, guys. Well, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this type of content, make sure you smash the like button. Hit the subscribe. You'll get notified anytime we put out new content. Listen to this. We just hit a massive parlay for $29,000 at UFC 297. That is one UFC after 296 where we hit a parlay for $82,000. That's back-to-back parlays. We've made $110,000. And how do we do it? We use our exclusive fighting stats, not available anywhere else. Our exclusive fighting stats gives us information, gives us a big edge over the sportsbooks, and tell us what's going to happen within the fights. We post all that information, our breakdowns, our best bets over at patreon.com/fightingstats. Don't miss out. Make sure you subscribe today. Again, my name is Art C. This is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching.